All right, we are back with another Drive Across 65. We're going to finish up the NFC. We have the South and the West to go. We'll give you some conference winners, maybe some Super Bowl winners. It is Monday, August 1st, and we have huge news coming out of the NFL. I'm going to let Pete break it to you. Everybody, you ready?
It's the news we've been waiting for a long time coming out of the AFC. We just got word today that the New England Patriots have re-signed punter Jake Bailey to a 4-year extension. It lowers their salary cap hit for this season, and it gives them protection at a reasonably important position. An All-Pro in 2020, Jake Bailey will make the Super Bowl a foregone conclusion this season. The Patriots are absolutely going to win it. They re-signed their punter.
Yeah, also Deshaun Watson suspended.
Oh, yeah, that happened too.
Yeah, that's awesome news out of the AFC that kind of got swept under the rug. Wasn't really a big deal. So the Browns don't have a team total out, which is not uninteresting, but still kind of interesting.
There is still an appeals process. I believe, I'm terribly sorry if I'm wrong, but I do strongly believe that either side has 3 days to file a formal appeal.
Legal Beagle?
Something like that.
All right, so in other news, sticking with the AFC, according to Action Network, Kenny Pickett is the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 500. I didn't even know he was going to start, and he's the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. It's kind of mind-blowing.
A little bit.
And then so they have 3 quarterbacks, right? They have Rudolph,
Mason Rudolph,
the Rookie of the Year, the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Pickett.
Favorite, yes.
and then the kid that played from Chicago that I guess isn't going to get a starting position now that everybody thought he was going to get.
It may seem so. That's pretty convoluted. I guess it's easy to put the favorite on a quarterback, especially the only quarterback that went in the first round that would have any reasonable chance of starting in week 1, but yeah, it's a 3-headed monster over there, and monster might be the operative word.
It's insane. It's insane to me that they have so if it was like any other rookie coming out, like Trevor Lawrence, who I remembered his name this time, who was number 1 overall pick, guaranteed to starting position. Even like Matt Corral just got drafted, and he was guaranteed to starting position in the Panthers organization. I could see why you would have a listed favorite at Offensive Rookie of the Year, but for a guy that's second, maybe third string, it's kind of weird odds to me. I feel like it's some kind of weird trap. I don't know.
Well, no offensive lineman is going to win Rookie of the Year. It would take an extraordinary effort for a tight end to win Rookie of the Year.
And that's a shame.
Yeah. And receivers can. It's been done. A bunch of them went in the first round. They don't really have defined roles either. No running back went real high. It just seems like the odds makers think it'll be a quarterback because it's usually a quarterback, and Pickett was the highest one drafted. It's a tough one. That's one of those. That's one of those futures that you might want to dig and see if you can find a diamond in the rough. Maybe a James Cook for Buffalo, or even a Pierre Strong, a 4th-round pick from New England. Who knows what his odds are? If he winds up with a starting job there and puts up some numbers, he might win Rookie of the Year. So that's one to dig for.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. It's something that we'll have to dig, like you said, dig in a little bit more and figure out what's going on. Maybe an in-season situation where we bet the live Rookie of the Year instead of the preseason projection.
Right. There's not nearly enough information right now to make any kind of educated guess.
So that was big news out of the AFC. The big news coming out of the NFC. The Detroit Lions, in Dan Campbell fashion, the players are signing kneecaps now. Wow, I'm excited. I'm so excited for this team. Like, what a speech that I'm sure he was just grasping at straws, just saying stuff that just turned into like this viral thing that is just like everybody's buying into now. It's insane.
It's a scene straight out of a movie. I mean, it's the underdog team looking to make the leap, and that's the turning point where the team really gets on behind them, and the fans start getting pumped up, and you're seeing some light.
I mean, what if they bring like molded kneecaps to games and like start waving them like the cowbells down south? You know what I mean? Like
it'd be quieter.
It'd be wow. It's insane. So we're going to. Do you have any more news coming out of the AFC, NFC? How's your week? Sunshine, beautiful. We're in the south.
It's chilled out a little bit. It's not nearly as sweltering hot. I'm not personally very attuned to hot weather. I like 60 degrees. That's my jam. But we're surviving it.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into the NFC South, where it is definitely not 60 degrees.
No.
We're going to lead off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So big news out of camp. Well, first of all, they say that there's a new head coach. So I dug in a little bit and did some research, and it looks like Tom Brady's still there. I'm not really sure. Did I miss something?
No, he's still there to do his glorified handoffs, 2-yard throws, all that jazz.
And to coach the team, the head coach.
Well, he's no Peyton Manning in that regard.
All right, so look, guys, before we dive into the NFC South and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I have to forewarn you guys. I have to preface with Pete is in his own world as far as GOAT talk. Okay, now let me elaborate. So in basketball, you'll have your Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan GOAT talk, and everything's up for debate, right? It's generational, I would think. Baseball, it's the same way. You got Bonds, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb.
Sure, Ted Williams,
Luke Gehrig, Shohei Ohtani might be in the conversation now. I mean, he's a stud, generational stud. When it comes to the NFL, there's a couple of names that can get thrown around. As far as this generation goes, I think it's hard to debate. I think there's an overall consensus as to who the GOAT is until you get to Pete.
Right.
And I think everybody's on board with Tom Brady has got to be it.
Okay, so the prevailing wisdom about Tom Brady being the GOAT is that he's got the most rings. And I'm not going to deny the man that. He does have the most rings. Do we think that Charles Haley is the greatest defensive player in NFL history? Most people would say no. Charles Haley has the most rings of any defensive player that ever lived. And it's not that he was kind of hanging around, tagging along for those rings. He was a key member of 2 49er championship teams and 3 Dallas Cowboy championship teams. He was an absolute contributor. If we're going to use the rings argument, that's all I'm sticking to for the time being. Nobody who's ever watched football for more than 3 seconds can say with any certainty that Trent Dilfer is better than Dan Marino. But ring count, Trent Dilfer has a ring. Brad Johnson, too, has a ring. Dan Marino has none.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the ring argument goes, I guess it's hard to it's tough to set a precedent, man. You can go Super Bowl, NBA championships, World Series. I mean, there's 1,000 cases for other guys that have more rings that aren't in GOAT debates. As far as overall leadership, you got to think that with those rings, Brady is at the top of the board. But I'm not going to argue with your wisdom, man, because I like your outside of the box thinking, and I think that it's a fresh look at what everybody's missing.
Right, and that's, again, I want to reiterate 2 things. Number one, I don't think Tom Brady's a bad quarterback at all.
You just said he was a handoff specialist.
I mean, I like to have fun with him a little bit, but he kind of is a handoff specialist. He does it well. I think Tom Brady is a clear Hall of Famer, all that jazz. So, number one, I don't think he's bad. And number two, the ring argument is only one aspect of it. We can do an entire show on this, potentially, and that's not the direction this particular pod's going in. But having Tom Brady there in Tampa as the replacement for Jameis Winston, even though we're 2 years in, that's essentially what we're looking at here, does improve the Buccaneers because Brady is, if nothing else, extremely intelligent with the football.
Yeah.
He's not going to make the throws that Jameis Winston does. Interesting stat. Jameis, and it's not really a stat, it's a Pro Football Reference thing. I'll cover that in a second. Jameis Winston in 2019 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had an approximate value on ProFootballReference.com of 16. I'm not saying this is a perfect stat by any means. It's their evaluation of how a player plays during the course of the season. Tom Brady replaces him in 2020 and puts up the exact same approximate value without all the interceptions. So it goes to show that Jameis Winston could have just controlled himself and not turned the ball over 35 times, maybe?
Was that his 30? I think it was his
30 interceptions, but he lost some fumbles too. So he turned the ball over more than twice a game.
Right, but it was 30-30, right?
Yes.
30 touchdowns, 30
touchdowns, 30 interceptions. First time in NFL history that's ever occurred. Because most guys that throw 30 touchdowns can keep it under 30 interceptions. Most guys that throw over 30 interceptions can't get to 30 touchdowns because they're not good or they get benched. So for him to do it in the same season was, in its own way, impressive. But just Brady came in, righted the ship in that regard, and was able to ride all that talent they had to a championship.
Was that a Buccaneers reference, righting the ship? Did you do that on accident?
I didn't do it on purpose, but I know my brain knew what I was talking about. You may not have known it, but your brain did. That's a Mr. Plunkett reference for those of you out there that know that.
We'll get to Jameis Winston when we get to the Saints.
Sure. This is a long introduction to say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a very talented roster. That said, they've had a little bit of an issue in this offseason with their interior offensive line. Starting center, Ryan Jensen. It's not really confirmed if he's out for the season, but it seems like he is. Starting guard, Ali Marpet. One of those guys you don't get heard from, who doesn't get heard from very much because he's a lineman. Retired. Alex Kappa has signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. They did trade for Shaq Mason. They have Aaron Stinnie in the wings as a starting guard. And apologies here, I'm not sure who their center would be if Jensen goes down. It's a 4th-round pick from last year. Can't think of his name. That's a little bit of a commentary on what they're expecting from that player as well.
Yeah. So they're in the trenches, man. It's going to be rough for the Buccaneers. They are in the NFC South. They are the overwhelming favorites to win the NFC South. We'll break down their team a little bit more outside of the offensive line. So they did pick up Kyle Rudolph, so I believe all the Gronk rumors can probably fade, at least for the next couple months. He retired to pick up a big tight end to fill those shoes. I think Kyle Rudolph will do well filling those shoes, right?
Well, I mean, he's going to take the roster spot. He's not going to be nearly as good as Gronk. He doesn't offer the kind of blocking.
Right.
But Gronk seemed serious this time. I believed him. Like, when he retired the first time, I didn't really believe him. I do this time.
Yeah. His girlfriend don't believe him, which is kind of funny. But nevertheless, they still have Mike Evans. They still have Scotty Too Hottie Miller, which isn't a big name on the roster, except for it's cool to say Scotty Too Hottie Miller. I like that a lot. And we had talked about Julio Jones when we were breaking down the AFC South and the Titans. And we had suggested that maybe he's going to rest his body. And we also suggested that he was going to ring chase. And one of those has definitely come to fruition. He signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the time being. And Pete said some of the most insane hot takes I've ever heard in my life. Pete, please tell the people so they can. And if you're not sitting down, sit down because this one's going to knock you off your feet.
So we were talking about him ring chasing. And my suggestion was that he would do so during the season. Not so much before the season. We wanted to see what the situation might be. I did not have it on mind that he would sign with Tampa Bay. Not because they're not a Super Bowl contender. They certainly are. Because they have 3 wide receivers on their roster right now in Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Russell Gage, who don't play special teams. And to add a 4th wide receiver like Julio Jones, who clearly doesn't play special teams, was a bit of a head scratcher to me. So unless Chris Godwin is still injured, I can actually see Julio Jones not making the team out of training camp.
Say it again.
I can actually see Julio Jones not making the team coming out of training camp.
So we're not saying not being a starter.
Correct.
You're saying not making Tim Tebow, not making
I see a scenario, a very clear scenario, a very realistic scenario for Julio Jones based on his lack of special teams and lack of special teams play of those receivers I just mentioned, not making the team.
So, all right, and it is Monday, August 1st, guys. Surely you have not drafted yet, but hopefully you haven't because that would be really crazy. It's really early.
It's a little too early for fans to draft.
So, assuming you haven't drafted yet, maybe put that one in your back pocket. You know what I mean? Like, this is some outside the box thinking. He might go high on some people's draft board, and you might be able to sneak somebody else in that has equal value but might actually play. And not to say that Julio won't play week 5, week 6, week 7 coming out of, LA Rams. Are they like picking up wide receivers in the middle of the season to chase? But for just for statistical all-season stats, you know what I mean, not to start your wide receiver 1 in week 6, pick up a candidate that you might think that will be getting you value early.
Right, unless you're a big Alabama Crimson Tide homer and you still remember the Julio Jones days, or you're a big Atlanta Falcons homer, or you're just a big Julio Jones fan in general. I don't think too many people are going to be drafting him as a starter in fantasy. They might be taking a flyer on him as a wide receiver 4 or 5, something like that. But I don't even think that's worth it, because unless he goes to a different team. I had in mind that he might sign with the Colts. They're a little thinner at the receiver position. Their quarterback's Matt Ryan. They clearly have a rapport from their Atlanta days together. Maybe he doesn't view Indianapolis as a Super Bowl contender. That's fine. But they're definitely a playoff contender, and once you're into the tournament, anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them as a playoff contender either, so I guess that's why.
Fair enough.
So anyways, all right, so Tampa Bay's team total is set at 11.5, over 110. Under's really juicy at 134, 11.5 feet. What do you see?
It's a trickier schedule than they're used to having. I mean, they came off a Super Bowl win in 2020 and still didn't play much of the schedule. This season, I mean, they're open up 2 games on the road against teams that were not in the playoff, teams that had winning records last year, Dallas and New Orleans. And as we know, since Tom Brady's joined Tampa Bay, they have yet to beat the Saints in the regular season. Clearly, they got him one in the playoff game when Drew Brees absolutely Amber Hearded himself. But they can't beat him in the record. They couldn't score a point against them last. They lost 9-0.
I bet that game live last year with the Bucks, I think at like plus 7.5. I think they still lost.
Wow. Yeah. They couldn't score a point. That was when Sean Payton was out. I believe he was sidelined with an undisclosed virus or something. But
yeah, I think Gronk was wide receiver 1 that game.
He may have been.
Yeah.
And then they have Green Bay, Kansas City. That's 4 teams at the beginning of the season. I'm not saying they're going 4 by any means, but it would be surprising for them to go 4-0. They still get the Falcons and Panthers twice a year. And even if we think the Panthers are improved this year, maybe we do, we're not sure. But that shouldn't cause too much concern for them. They'll probably find a way to win 12 games.
Tell me about this Week 10 game against the Seahawks, followed by the Week 11 bye. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're playing the Seahawks in Munich, Germany. If I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, it's the first NFL regular season game to ever be played in Germany. And clearly they're counting on star power. The name of Tom Brady. Maybe he's big in Germany. I'm not sure. Don't live in Germany. Don't know too many people that live in Germany. But it's Tom Brady. He's the name the NFL pushes above all others. Yeah. So it's no surprise to see them get sent there.
It's interesting this is a geography lesson. Will the Seahawks be flying, will the 2 team planes be flying in different directions to get there?
It'll be a race.
You know what I mean? Like they're on opposite sides of the world.
We'll take the Pacific, you'll take the Atlantic. Go!
Let's see who gets there first. So like you said, it's hard to imagine them not winning 12, even though the under is more juiced up. They got the Week 10 game, and then followed by a bye. They'll have the Browns, who will officially have Deshaun Watson back by Week 11, we're guessing, and will probably be crawling, be fighting tooth and nail to get a couple wins. 12 games, you're getting a little plus money on that. You're liking it?
I'm liking it. It just feels like the kind of team that's going to win 12 games. If I were to not have any preconceived notions about the players on this team, and I looked at their schedule, I would tend toward the under, but it just feels like they're going to win 12.
Gotcha. So, all right. So, first game out of the gate, we're going to go over 11.5. Not chalky, which is surprising, over 11.5 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get to 12 games. Next team up, we're going to go a little further south. West?
Northwest. Something.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
New Orleans Saints, you got your team total set at 8.5. Over, you're getting even money. Under is -124. They had some coaching changes, some staff changes. Pete, what do you got?
Well, they got Dennis Allen in there, who we just talked about. He was the head coach of that 9-0 Saint victory over the Buccaneers. That doesn't make him the NFL's greatest coach. It means he coached one game. He coached it well defensively, especially. And he has been on the staff for a while there with Sean Payton. And I don't see much changing in the locker room. Obviously, there's going to be some philosophical differences. No two people are exactly the same. Sean Payton is considered one of the foremost offensive gurus in NFL history.
Yeah.
And Dennis Allen doesn't quite have that cachet. But as far as the locker room goes, I don't see a whole lot of changes. If Jameis Winston's healthy, they're going to have more stability at quarterback this year, which is a weird thing to say about Winston, but it's becoming the case now that he's a Saint.
Let me stop you right there, okay? The Red Rifle, I don't know if we're allowed to say that anymore.
Nothing. You can't say anything anymore.
Andy Dalton is on that team.
He is, and that's my TCU boy.
And that's a pretty big deal. Don't forget that Taysom Hill. Let me remind you, Taysom Hill's on that team.
Taysom Hill is one of the best emergency quarterbacks in the NFL
ever. And to add to my Dalton take, Mark Ingram let him have his number, so Andy Dalton's going to be a little bit more comfortable back there taking snaps. So they added Tyrann Mathieu. They added Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry said he went to the Saints because of Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me because I still feel like there's got to be quarterback competition there between Dalton and Winston. And for Jarvis just to go out on a limb like that might be opening up the season with a little controversy.
Well, it's a little bit of a mismatch, too. Jarvis Landry's made his hay in the NFL as a slot receiver. Jameis Winston's made his hay as a shot taker, throw the ball down the field. It seems to be a mismatch. So maybe Landry's going to change up his game a little bit. Maybe Winston's more inclined to find a slot guy. Maybe they're buddies from the day. One with the Florida State, one with the LSU. I don't see a connection there. But
the SEC, man, just need more.
I guess. But, I figured he went to the Saints because it's home. He played college football in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge, but Louisiana.
So the team total is set at 8.5. Weird schedule conflict that we've been trying to break down. So week 4, they play the Vikings in London. It'll be the 8:30 game that everybody's just like. It's cool to wake up and be like, oh, football's on, and like forget to set your fantasy lineup the night before because you think you have time, and then you wake up and you're scrambling and freaking out, and then all of a sudden you look down and Jarvis Landry has 24 fantasy points and you forgot to start him, and it's always a nightmare. They'll have the week 14 bye with the week 4 London game. Pete, can you make this make sense for me?
Well, they're going to be at Carolina week 3, so they're going to be fairly solidly on the East Coast before they can fly off and play that game in London. It used to be automatically in the NFL if you had an overseas game, like a London game, that you would get a bye week the following week. That hasn't necessarily been the case in recent seasons, and that's by design. I think some teams have said that they're fine not taking that bye week, especially a team on the East Coast. Now, the Saints aren't exactly on the East Coast, but they are east of the Mississippi. We've gotten our geography straight on all that now.
Hang on, let me look. Oh, yeah.
Yes, they are. Sweet, okay. And they will get a home game the following week, and they get to fly out from Carolina, which is helpful. So, and then what's surprising, though, week 4, they play in London, and the bye doesn't come for another 10 weeks. So they're going to have to grind through the season. Look at week 9, week 10. Ravens, Steelers. Those are physical teams. I don't know how good they are year to year, but they are going to hit you.
The Rams following up, and then at San Francisco, then at Tampa. I mean,
that's a gauntlet.
Up. Yeah,
that's a gauntlet.
That's tough, man.
But the physicality of those Ravens and Steelers games may lend to some issues there. And then, of course, that Bucks game right before the bye is Monday night, so they lose another day in their bye as well. But all that said, I like the Saints' talent. Everyone's going to look at them and be like, there's no Drew Brees. There's no Sean Payton. They've still got a good team. They didn't do a whole lot of changeover in the offseason. Yes, they lost a couple of important players. Teron Armstead, offensive lineman, going to Miami. That's a big loss, no question about it. But they're running back a lot of the same team. It depends on how you feel about someone like Chris Olave, who was their first-round pick. I take it a little easy on him. I think he might need time to adjust to the NFL. But if he comes in there and does well, that offense is going to look almost as good as it has during the Breeze days. Not quite as good, but almost as good. And the defense is strong. All you need is 9 wins. They got last year. Yeah. I like the over, especially at plus 100. Even money, I take it.
Yeah, I mean, they another team with some names. I mean, we didn't even talk about Alvin Kamara. You know what I mean? Like, he's a monster. Having Tyrann Mathieu on defense, man, you're just going to look down and see that name on the back of that jersey and be like, oh, their defense is good. You know what I mean? They do have 3 quarterbacks, so if they ever need to change one, if they need to run the Wildcat, they have unlimited possibilities.
Right. Taysom Hill's listed as a tight end these days, but we all know he can play quarterback, so we consider him in that quarterback conversation for that reason.
Yeah. So Saints team total 8.5. You're getting even money on it, maybe a little plus money depending on where you're shopping. So we're going over 8.5. Saints, put that on the books. And then we're going to move to... We're going east now, right?
From New Orleans, we're going east, yes.
Yeah.
I forgot where we are. This isn't not Carmen San Diego, for those who remember that.
Carolina, you got their team total set at 6. Over minus 125, got to pay a little juice on it. Unders even at 100 even. They obviously picked up Baker Mayfield, which is huge. You already have seen highlights of him throwing interceptions at camp, which is a pretty big deal. Means he's right back to where he left. I'm just kidding. I love Baker Mayfield. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. I try to throw a bit in there. So me and you kind of bumped heads on this, talking about it before we started. So when they drafted Matt Corral, saying that right,
yes.
Who made me some money betting over in Ole Miss, it seemed to have ended a lot of Baker Mayfield conversation. All the NFL quote-unquote experts were saying that ends the Baker Mayfield talk. Now we got to figure out where he's going. Then they ended up picking him up, right? So which goes to show you that nobody, except for the GM and maybe not even the GM, nobody really knows. You know what I mean? Like how teams are going to end up. I liked Matt last year, man. Like I said, he made me a ton of money for Ole Miss, throwing bombs all over the place. Poor kid got hurt late in the season, man.
Yeah, Matt Corral is a classic, awesome college football player whose NFL future I had questions about. Basically, I looked at him as Johnny Manziel without the partying and all the other craziness. The same kind of game. Little undersized, a little bit too reckless. You're going to get hurt. You're going to throw the ball up for grabs when you're in that situation that you're not used to. I mean, Matt Corral was clearly a Heisman candidate last year, well-deserved. And I just don't see much for his NFL future. They took him late in the third. They did trade up into the third to get him. That does say something. When you move up for a guy, that means you had him targeted.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, Corral wasn't going to be enough to dissuade Carolina from picking up a guy they thought for at least this season could definitely be their starter and an above-average starter at that. The potential is there with Baker. We've seen it when he's healthy, that he can lead a team. He can produce at a reasonably high level. He's not Patrick Mahomes by any means, but he can produce, and he's going to be an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I mean, for Christ's sake, he's going to be an upgrade over part of my language. He's going to be
Sam might be third string, man. I'll take that over Sam. No offense, bro.
I mean, it's at this point. I mean, if Sam Darnold's going to be third string, he's going to be a free agent. You're not going to keep him as a third string if he's not the backup. So yeah, bringing in Baker helps. It's still we're going to call it an iffy roster. Obviously, the biggest name on that roster, anyone that plays fantasy knows this, is Christian McCaffrey.
Right. If he stays healthy.
If he's got all of his limbs attached to his body still, he can be reasonably effective, obviously. He is the third guy in NFL history to do the 1,000 season, and he did it before the league went to 17 games. When he joined Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk, 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. Only 3 guys have ever done it. It tells you it's impressive.
Yeah.
He just can't keep himself together. I don't know if he needs duct tape, super glue. I'm not sure what it is, but he's not the biggest guy at the running back position. It's the most physical position in the league. It's hard to say. He can come back and be an all-pro this year, and he can come back and this could be his last season. Running back is so crazy in that way, especially when you're a workhorse like McCaffrey is. So I think the safe bet for McCaffrey is not to count on him.
Right, yeah, I think a lot of people, between him and Barkley, man, people just grab him early off the draft boards and just regret it.
I've still got Barkley in Dynasty. Come back, Saquon!
So their team total is 6. If you tell me McCaffrey's guaranteed to be healthy over the season, I would take him to win 7 games on his back alone, just to carry the team to win 7 games. Without that guarantee, the team total is 6, man. What do you got?
It seems low, but I still like the under.
Yeah.
I think the NFC South is the most lopsided division in football. You've got 2 quality teams. Most people would agree Tampa's high quality. Some people might not agree on the Saints, but they were a 49er comeback victory over the Rams in Week 18 away from being in the playoffs last season, and they could have made some noise. The 49ers did, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And they come back with a good defense, and then you got 2 teams on the bottom of that division, where I could see Tampa and New Orleans going 5-1 because they beat the other 2 teams twice and split with each other, and maybe Carolina and Atlanta being 1-5 because they split with each other and lost their 4 games to Tampa and New Orleans.
That would be interesting.
I could see it possible. I see it as a possibility, and Carolina they do get back one piece on their defense. Second year now, cornerback J.C. Horn. He was the first defensive player drafted in 2021, and it was a bit of a surprise, but I liked it. I liked his game coming out of college, and he only got to play 3 games last year, and he got hurt. So he comes back. He might help out. He may not be fully healthy. There's too many question marks on this Carolina team. I can't see them doing much better than what was it, over 6-11 sounds like their ceiling.
Yeah.
Their ceiling, and I'm not going to take a team based on their ceiling. I got to go under.
Yeah, and you're going under, and if you push, you're happy. You just don't want to throw up the extra quarter of a unit. You know what I mean? Just to beg for a push, right there. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
And to expect a 7-10 Carolina team, that seems like a tall task.
Yep. All right. So to wrap up the NFC South, we're going back west. We're gonna stop doing that. I'm already over it.
It is West, and they used to play in the NFC West for years. They played in the NFC West. Atlanta, the SEC, they played in the NFC West.
My brain hurts already. All right, Atlanta Falcons picked up Mariota.
They did?
Which he has connections with head coach oh my gosh, Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith. His name's too easy, folks.
Yeah. That was not a pronunciation issue. It was
give me Akbar Baja Biomilla. We can get that one.
So they have that Tennessee Titans connection. I'm still not an Arthur Smith believer, unfortunately for Falcons fans. If you guys care, I think he rode the Derrick Henry train into a head coaching position, and I don't think it's going to carry him far. They still have tight end Kyle Pitts. Maybe him and Mariota can come up with some chemistry there.
There could be.
They still have Calvin Ridley.
Oh no!
What happened?
Gambling.
What?
Gambling.
Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
He ain't playing?
No.
You think he's a fan of the show?
He must be.
He must have been listening. He must have started telling some of our picks. That's ridiculous.
Well, he didn't listen to us is the problem.
Yeah. His speech was that I lost.
Yeah,
right? I lost. I don't have a gambling problem. I only lost 500. Well, you'd have won 500.
Right.
Telling our picks,
rather
Mr. Ridley.
Win it than lose it.
Their team total is set at 5. I mean, Over, you're getting plus 122. The under is minus 155. I'm gonna say this again, okay, for people in the back. To bet on the Atlanta Falcons to win less than 5 games will cost you $155 to win $100, $250 total. That is insane.
That's brutal.
And like when you look at it, man, it's like there's grown men versus grown men, 11 on each side with the same equipment. Like, how can you not win 5 out of 17? That's insane.
They're short on talent this year.
I said when they had Marcus Mariota.
They do have Marcus Mariota. I like Marcus Mariota. I do. I think he could have had a better opportunity in Tennessee. He is, I believe, the only quarterback in NFL history to complete a pass to himself for a touchdown in the playoffs. He did do that against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. That's pretty remarkable. It's fluky, but he's the only one who's ever done it.
And if he does it 5 more times, they can win 5 games.
You know what? If he can complete about 6 or 7 passes to himself, he might be the best athlete on that offense outside of Pitts. And this is a team that won way more games than they deserved last year. They got shellacked in so many games. Their win expectation was about 3 lower than it was in actuality. I think the Falcons are the favorites to get the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. We've teased this out throughout previous episodes. I can honestly see them going 2-15 this year.
Gross.
And if you can find a way to move the line, let's say if you can get him we see him here at plus or minus 5 wins. If you can move it to 4.5, if you can find 4.5, give yourself slightly better return on your money, I would do it. I can't see Atlanta doing much of anything this year. And we talk about Mariota, they may find a way to get Desmond Ridder into the lineup. And I think Ridder's got a lot of potential. But if you're going to throw him into the fire this season, that's going to hurt him. That's going to hurt his future. I wouldn't do it. I stick to Mariota, let Ridder develop, and just take it on the chin this year, guys. It's going to be a long year.
Yeah, and just as a side note, I do believe that the Falcons had one of those across the pond games last year, correct? Because I feel like I remember I woke up one morning and was like, oh, I got a fantasy game I got to get on.
That sounds right.
And then I checked the board and Kyle Pitts had like 40 points and was already beating my whole team. Like before. I was dead in the water before it started. So yeah, we don't have much on the Falcons. Just hang in, Atlanta.
Yeah.
Y'all just won a World Series.
You did.
And college championship, Georgia.
Yeah, it's the state of Georgia. It's the state of Georgia. You
guys got
claim
some,
it.
Yeah, you guys are fine, man. Just hang in.
Atlanta, I'm certain it's kind of like the city of Louisville. You got a lot of UK fans in Louisville.
Yeah.
And Atlanta is the home of Georgia Tech, but I'm sure you got a lot of Georgia fans in the city.
Nobody really I mean, they got that cool, what is it, the sweep offense that they run all the time.
Yeah. The double option?
Yeah.
Triple option?
Yeah, triple option. There you go.
Somehow Calvin Johnson became a Hall of Fame wide receiver coming out of that offense. It's talent's talent, folks.
Insane. All right, so wrapping up the NFC South. This is going to be interesting because you brought up a good point at splitting the conference, right? So Bucks, you got minus 305. You can get the Saints at plus 400, Panthers at plus 1,000, and the Falcons are listed at LOL. I don't know. Maybe you're a millionaire. If you put the Falcons in, I don't know.
LOL doesn't seem high enough.
Yeah, they're plus 25.
Should be ROFL.
You guys just won a World Series. Relax. All right, so Bucks at minus 305, Saints at plus 4. What if they split that record up there?
I mean, if they split it up, that'd be an improvement for Tampa Bay. They haven't beaten the Saints in the regular season in the last few years.
Right. So as far as taking the NFC, what we got?
So
NFC South.
So the Bucks won the division last year. They did not win it the year before. They won a Super Bowl, but they did not win the division. Right. New Orleans won that division. So Tampa, to me, seems like they should be the favorite. But that's difference between minus 305 and plus 400. Woo! It's tempting, don't you think? I would pick this is going to sound a little contradictory. I would pick Tampa to win the division, but I would bet New Orleans to win it because I think they very much can. If I'm getting plus 400 as opposed to minus 305, that's a huge difference to me. I'm taking New Orleans as a play.
Yeah.
But my prediction's Tampa wins the division.
I feel like the proof is in the pudding there. I mean, it's simple math. You have 3 quarterbacks that play for the Saints and only 1 that plays for the Bucs.
So since football's a one-on-one sport, now they got 3-on-1.
I mean, the math is there. Yeah, plus 4 on the Saints. I guess sort of a dark horse look at it.
They're clearly at worst the second best team in that division.
Right.
So it's not like they're fighting off competition from other places.
Right.
It's just finish with a better record than Tampa, or finish with the same record as Tampa and get that season sweep like you always do. And you can't count on that. Can't count on the season sweep, but just to reiterate, they've done it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same coaching staff that held Tampa to no points. Right?
No points.
Same D coordinator. It's interesting, man. It's interesting. All right, so just to reiterate, the Bucs at -3 is the smart play. The gambling play would be the Saints at plus 400, thinking that they both run the NFC South right there, split the series. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I wouldn't run with Tampa at -305 unless you just felt like it was a mortal lock. Do you think New Orleans can't challenge them at all? Then sure, go ahead and pay that juice. Get back what you think is automatic money. I think the gap is closer than the odds say so. And it's tough to jump on a team, even if you think they can do it, when that gap is there.
Yeah. All right, heading west.
All the way west.
NFC West. We're going to lead off with the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Couple roster updates. Obviously, Von Miller is gone. He's going to play for who Pete is calling the Super Bowl champions. The Bills, correct?
Yes, that's my...
Ramsey is a little limited after surgery, I saw. They did pick up Allen Robinson.
They did.
Pretty big deal. Under the radar, their biggest pickup, nobody's going to talk about, but I'm definitely going to mention AJ Rose. Who? Who's that? Who's AJ Rose? Well, let me tell you about this guy, okay? He was a running back coming out of Kentucky. He got picked up by Minnesota Vikings. Didn't touch the grass for the Minnesota Vikings. Shame on them. They just lost 1 win out of my total for not playing him last year. I've forgotten about that. He's a good running back. He's good. He was good in college. He played for Kentucky in the SEC. He did well. AJ Rose, biggest pickup for the LA Rams. 13 total, set at 10.5. -110 both ways. There's no huge juice swaying you either way. What you got, Pete?
The defending Super Bowl champions are only at 10.5. That's interesting. They are the defending champions. They were also the weakest of the 4 NFC division winners last year. They were the 4th seed. They had Tampa Bay's number last year. They beat him in the regular season. They beat him in the playoffs. They got into the NFC title game where they were losing by double digits in the 4th quarter, but they had the luxury of doing so against the 49ers, who just love nothing more than blowing double-digit leads in the 4th quarter.
We'll get
Okay,
to that.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Relax. Your blood pressure is already going.
Yes, it is. I'm turning purple.
Couple teams away.
They obviously returned most of the team. Sean McVay is coming back. Aaron Donald flirted a little bit with retirement. I don't think that was ever going to get too serious, at least not this season. When you have Aaron Donald, you have a chance to win every single game.
True.
He is one of those rare guys on the defense. When I think about guys like Lawrence Taylor in his prime, Reggie White in his prime, J.J. Watt in his prime.
What?
And Aaron Donald could take over a game. Aaron Donald was the legitimate MVP of the Super Bowl last year. He was the most dominant presence on the field almost on every snap when the Bengals had the ball. You don't bet against that dude. You don't bet against that dude unless the bet is, can he lift a 2-story house? 1-story house, I'm not sure. The 2-story house, yeah, I would bet against him at that point. But yeah, the Rams, they bring in Allen Robinson to replace Odell Beckham, who replaced Robert Woods during the season. They got Van Jefferson there still at receiver. They clearly have Cooper Kupp still. It's going to be a 3-receiver offense. It always is with McVay. If it's not Allen Robinson, it's someone else. It's gonna chug along, and the division's a little weaker this year. Seattle seems to have entered a season of transition. We're gonna call it. The Cardinals are always a question mark. You never know which team's gonna show up. The blazing team that wins 9 in a row, or the team that looks like a lock for the playoffs and loses 6 out of 7 as they did the year before. As far as just wins for the regular season, yeah, they'll probably go over
10.5 at -110.
11-6 Rams, 12-5 Rams. That doesn't strike me as shocking.
They got the Monday night game in week 4 at San Francisco. They got the week 7 bye. Not a huge fan. They got Panthers and Niners on either side of that. It's gonna be interesting. Week 9 they go to Tampa. That'll be an interesting game. They have to play in New Orleans, in Kansas City, in Green Bay on a Monday night game. Week 15. It will be interesting, man. 10.5. You like the over there?
I do, just because they bring back the same guys. I don't see the Rams surging this year. To me, they're nowhere near the favorite to repeat, but they're also nowhere near a favorite to fall off. I just think they're the same team.
Yeah, I love Matt Stafford, man. God, if you look up grit in the dictionary, you'll see me holding a picture of Matt Stafford.
I do appreciate his commercial he did with Lily.
Yeah,
it was kind of like the most obvious wink to the camera of all time, but it was still cool.
Yeah,
and Matt Stafford didn't all of a sudden become a better quarterback last year. He's the same guy. He's always been a solid guy, but he went from one roster to another, which kind of plays into my argument that rosters make quarterbacks more than quarterbacks make rosters.
Tom Brady has entered the chat. Here we go again.
Unless, of course, right now in the modern NFL, your name is Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen. Those are your 3 exceptions. Maybe Justin Herbert. He's almost there.
So an AJ Rose led offense. Rams team total over 10.5. Like I said, the books aren't trying to sway you either way. It's -110 either way you go. 10.5's got over 10.5's got.
And to actually put a nice bow on AJ, I actually like him in Dynasty. Okay. The Rams running back situation isn't overwhelming. They have Cam Akers, who's the clear starter, but he tore his Achilles, either his Achilles or ACL.
He came back soon, too.
Came back pretty quickly.
Amazing.
I apologize, I can't remember if it was the Achilles or ACL. I feel like it is Achilles.
Achilles, yeah, it was Achilles. Yeah.
And he can get hurt again. They don't have a whole lot. Darrell Henderson still there. Stash him on your dynasty team. Why not? Especially if you have deep rosters. Deep rosters, stash him.
SEC just needs one. All right, moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. Since our last recording, Kyler Murray got his contract. He was told that he has to study. Since he was told that he has to study, he was told that he no longer has to study. Do you know where all that came from, where that addendum came from?
I mean, no, but we can reasonably assume.
No, I actually know. So there was a quote from the New York Times, that's probably wrong, that said he insinuated that he wasn't big on studying, that he likes kind of like just playing the feel of it, and film study was like on the top of his priority list.
Yeah.
It's in-game situations where he makes his adjustments and whatnot. And then that came back out. So that's when the Cardinals were like, well, you have to study. And then it became such a distraction. That, well, maybe you don't have to study now, but you're going to study, right? Wink, wink.
Yeah, that was bizarre. I don't use that word too often, but that was absolutely bizarre. I'm glad I didn't have that when I was in high school because I didn't like studying either. But, I also wasn't getting paid millions of dollars to go to physics. Right. So I wasn't considered the leader of my school the way Kyler would be considered the leader of this football team. What has Kyler Murray really done to earn the contract other than be a quarterback and be the number 1 pick? I think this contract hurts the team more than it helps it.
Ooh, elaborate.
Yeah. He's obviously a unique player. He is maybe the quickest quarterback I've ever seen. He had 100 yards rushing against 49ers one game. He's capable of doing stuff like that. Is he an elite upper-tier quarterback? Based on his contract, he is. based on the play, he's not. And, he might weigh about 175 pounds. He's almost, I don't want to wish this on him, of course, but he's almost destined to get hurt at some point.
Yeah, I mean, if you scramble around that much,
Yeah.
you got an Aaron Donald around the corner.
Right.
Outside.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you're...
Aaron Donald minus 10,000. I take Donald.
Yeah.
And then Colt McCoy was the backup last year. He actually played well.
Right.
I don't know. It's been since 2010, I think, that Colt McCoy really looked like a upper-tier quarterback when he was playing at Texas, at the University of Texas. I should reiterate.
Right.
But when you dedicate that much money to one player, you want him to be, for one thing, easily the best player on your team, the guy that you can all look to, the Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen, mold, and he's just not there. He's just not there, sure. And he's just not there. And they've lost a lot of players, man. They lost a lot of players, and they're not giant names. One of them, of course, is a former UK player, Corey Peters. Chase Edmonds, Christian Kirk, Chandler Jones, Jordan Hicks, Jordan Phillips. Not giant names unless you're a fantasy player. You probably know Edmonds and Kirk. I've already talked about Edmonds right from the beginning, episode 1, season 1. But yeah, I see the Cardinals as that drop-off team this year.
So here's what's going to throw off the public, and this is why we're doing this pod. Okay, their team total is set at 8.5. It's go over. It's 1.25. You're getting even money to take the under. Okay, they still have some names. All right, so let's look at some of these names. They still have Zach Ertz, Budda Baker, AJ Green, JJ Watt, whatever. Don't know. I mean, he's coming back, but he's always a question.
A healthy JJ is top 3 defender in the league.
They picked up Hollywood Brown, big pickup, right? Marquise Brown. DeAndre Hopkins, question mark.
He's missing the first 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, but it's still a name on the rise. It's still a name.
Sure.
I mean, they have a ton of names. And Larry Fitzgerald, like, every time I think about the Cardinals, I'm like, is he still playing? He never officially retired, right?
I believe, certainly he's never filed paperwork. He's still, I'm sure if a team offered him, especially at the Cardinals, I think he'd like to stay with the Cardinals if anything. But if he was offered, I think it's time.
I feel like the last time I saw Larry Fitzgerald, he was sitting cross-legged. Like, are we allowed to say Indian style? No?
I don't know.
Yeah, he was sitting cross-legged in front of he was sitting Cleveland baseball style in front of a pyramid, like meditating, right?
Yes, exactly.
He never really retired. You know what I mean? That's in, and they. So when you look at that roster on paper, you obviously alluded to how many players they lost. When you look at that roster on paper, then you see 8.5. NFC West, like you said, it's going to be softer. Over 8.5 looks easy.
Well, one of the reasons I think it's going to be softer is because of the Cardinals. So,
see,
I take the under on the Cardinals this season. I think this is the season where things might come to a head. And if you have betting options out there about coaches getting fired, not that again we wish this upon anybody. I can see by the end of the season we can lose our beautiful Cliff Kingsbury. It just seems like every year a team falls apart in the NFL. It's like what the team was supposed to be good at is completely falling apart. To me, if that were a betting line, I'd take the Cardinals as that team. I could see it just going to the Wolves this year. So a losing streak here, a losing streak there. You hear reports about bickering in the locker room. Just to me, that sounds like the Cardinals this year.
Yeah, and their schedule is not easy, man. So they play the Chiefs out of the gate. They go to the Raiders. Then they have to play the Rams. They go to Carolina. Not a big deal, except for it's the travel, West Coast to East Coast.
And they're going to have to win some games.
Yeah,
that could be one.
Yeah. They play at Minnesota. They play at the Rams. They play San Francisco and Mexico City. That's a fun one. They have to play the Chargers, obviously. They have to play at Denver late in the season, where Denver might be scrapping for some wins.
And it's going to be at Denver for a team that plays in Phoenix. That's going to be rough.
Then they go cross-country again and play at Atlanta late. It might be a throw-it-away position for the Falcons. You never know. And then they play at the Niners. Potentially could be scrapping for a playoff position. I mean, their schedule's just not easy.
No, it's not. And, 8.5 to me, that just screams under based on that schedule, based on the Kyler Murray contract. And I'm not trying to hate on Kyler. I'm really not. But he's the kind of guy to me that seems more likely, now that he's got his money, to coast than he is to go out there and prove his contract was worthy. And I can see a lot of problems with this team this year.
Yeah, I'm not sold either. I like the under also.
Yeah, I like the under a lot.
All right, so we have reached that point in time, everybody. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off my microphone. I'm going to collect my things. I'm going to turn out the lights on my way out, close the door. We have come to Pete's Achilles heel in his life.
In my life.
The San Francisco 49ers. Pete, good news. Debo just got his contract.
He did, and I suspected he would.
I'm going to leave on a positive note. Just call me when you're done. I'll come back, and we'll start on the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm not going to try to go too long here. As anyone who's been listening can clearly tell at this point, I am a 49er fan. I grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm an area fan of the other teams, Texas Rangers, TCU, college. Just couldn't bring myself to be a Cowboys fan as a child, and I locked into the 49ers when I saw Ronnie Lott play for the first time. Most Niner fans of that era did so because of Joe Montana. I'm a little different. And stuck with them. Obviously, when I was growing up, they were winning a lot. They won the Super Bowl for the 5th time when I turned 16 and haven't won one since. Stuck with the guys. We're talking about this season with the 49ers. And last season was an interesting one. We started off 1-4. The 49ers started off 1-4. Turned the ship around, was able to get into the playoffs again on the backs of a Week 18 come from behind victory on the road against the Rams, where the majority of the stadium appeared to be 49er fans, and made a run in the playoffs. Beat 2 historic rivals in back-to-back weeks. The Cowboys on what can only be called a head-scratcher of a play at the end by Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, and then went into Green Bay a year removed from no fans being allowed in the stadium. Had to play in Green Bay in front of that hostile crowd with the bad weather, pulled out a victory there, and then did what the 49ers do in the NFC Championship game, took a lead, double-digit lead into the fourth quarter, and lost the game, as they did in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs 2 years ago. The 49ers are an interesting team this year. They are clearly moving ahead with Trey Lance at quarterback, which, after you trade 3 first-round picks to move up to number 3 and to take the dude, seems like a reasonable thing. As of this recording, Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster. They do have a very deep defensive line where they're not all getting injured. Maurice Hurst seems to be out. He's an important depth piece. Eric Armstead is out right now. He's not expected to miss any regular season time. D Ford finally got his release. That was a post-June 1st cut to save money on the cap. Secondary remains a bit of a question. Signed Charvarius Ward from the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Hoping on Jason Verrett's comeback. He missed basically the entire season last year. We're able to re-sign. We lost to Kwasti Tart. He actually signed with the Eagle, but we were able to re-sign Jimmy Ward. And I apologize for keep saying we. I am a 49er fan. It's hard not to say it. We're trying to do an objective analysis here. But the 49ers are kind of a boomer bust team to a lot of people, and I can understand that. It's a tough schedule. It always is in that division. Seattle does take a little bit of a downgrade this year, but they're Seattle, and they just somehow always have San Francisco's number. We got them at plus or minus 10 wins, minus 112. Both were interesting. They put them at minus 112 instead of minus 110. Wouldn't surprise anybody to see the 49ers win this division. They swept the Rams 3 straight years until the playoff game this year, of course. At plus 10 wins, take this with a grain of salt if you want. I am a 49er fan. I have been for a very long time. I think the over is legitimate. I think Trey Lance won't be Patrick Mahomes, but he won't be Jimmy Garoppolo either. And I wouldn't be surprised if he rushes for something like 900 yards this year and has 2 or 3 games where he runs for over 100 yards when we need it and pull out some of those wins that Jimmy Garoppolo would literally throw into the team's hands at times. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm appreciative of the service he provided to the Niners for the past few seasons. He was our starting quarterback when we played in the Super Bowl. But the team is upgrading this year. Trey Lance is the guy. Hello.
Hey, I'm back. Are you good? Are you
I'm
back?
good. I mean, I was going to go for as long as I needed to. I'm glad you're back.
Did you tell him about the weed thing where you're like a really big Niners fan?
Yeah, it's just a habit I can't break.
Did you tell him about the Shanahan poster you have in your room? No.
That is an unsubstantiated rumor, sir. I will not. I have mixed feelings on Kyle Shanahan, to be honest. Obviously, the guy's an offensive borderline genius, but we talk about those double-digit leads. We talk about the fact that he was the offensive coordinator in that one game where it was a Super Bowl and it was 28-3 or something. Or something. It's still hurtful too. But this is a team. The Niners are a good team, and 2020 was a weird year. Everybody got hurt. I think they made guest appearances on The Walking Dead, and came back again. The team started poorly last year, 1-4, and then turned it around. Niner fans came out in droves last year. I couldn't understand. I was actually at the 49ers Bengals game last year, and I fist bumped a lot of people. A lot of people.
The poor city of Cincinnati, man. Like, everybody goes to those games to cheer for the cheer games.
But again, the 49ers took over SoFi last year in the regular season finale, and just about did in the NFC title game, too. It almost felt like a home game. Those are not Niner fans that I'm familiar with. Niner fans tend to be California types. You know, they're chill, they're relaxed. They like their team a lot more when they're winning than they do when they're not.
Right.
The loyalty is strong, but the intensity, and that's going to happen. The intensity is going to dwindle when your team's not winning, but it dwindles big time, and you get a lot of those guys wondering if they're ever going to come back if they do start winning. They do. They always come back. 2019 was a big turnaround. Over 10 wins. Yeah, I mean, if you're concerned that I'm a 49er fan, I hope I laid out a reasonably comprehensive portfolio for the team.
I think not having Jimmy G gives them at least one win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's insane because, all right, so we're going to talk about my team for a second. The University of Kentucky Wildcats football team hired their new offensive coordinator, who was the quarterback coach for the San Francisco 49ers,
yes,
who is considered a quarterback guru, who coached the team, who had to make a wide receiver a running back to get him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is insane to me. Like, if your quarterback is that bad that your star player has to change positions in order to touch the ball, I mean, Debo might have had to play quarterback at some point last year. It could have got to that point.
I mean, he could have been okay. He's Debo. He seems to be able to do it all.
I definitely think Trey Lance is a step up. I think Shanahan will be able to do some cool stuff with him this year.
Yeah.
I think he'll be able to run around a little bit, be more mobile. Jimmy G, he always was hurt, man, and that was always an Achilles heel of his. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, like, you know, if you got a healthy Trey Lance that can run around, you got a great variant in Shanahan. Overton seems like to be the easy play there.
I should think so. I mean, they've got one issue on offense, might be their interior offensive line. Alex Mack retired, under the radar story, is starting center. It's unsure who's going to take that position this year. I'm an advocate for Justin School. He's been a backup lineman. He's done well when he started. If he can handle the center position, I like him doing it. Aaron Banks was a second-round pick last year at guard with the idea that he'd have to step in the next season. Laken Tomlinson did well for the 49ers last year. He went to the Jets and followed Robert Saleh over there. He's a question mark. He comes in, plays up to his pedigree. Cool. Not so much. That could be a problem. Obviously, Trent Williams is a stud on one end of the line. Mike McGlinchey on the other end is more of a run blocker, which in this offense would be a benefit. If he's all the way healthy, it could be a very strong offensive line. If it's not, you're going to see Trey Lance running around a lot more. He's bigger than Kyler Murray, but he's not oblivious to injury. He's susceptible to it. If he got hurt and Jimmy's not there, the backup Nate Sudfeld, the whole offense has to change. Could be brutal, but we're asking for a lot of what ifs here. Straightforward, reasonable answer that the 49ers go over 10 wins.
Yeah, Pete, we got there, and then you lapped back around and started talking about the roster again.
And I'm still holding back. I'm still holding back.
We're moving on to the Seattle Seahawks, guys.
Yes, we are.
All right. I hope everybody who tuned in is still here. There is a fast forward option. You'll see the 49er emblem there for a long time. But we don't have much to say about the Seattle Seahawks, so that'll shorten up the pod a little bit. Poor guys up there. All right, so say something nice about Seattle. I can't follow up anything as nice as Pete probably said for the last hour about the Niners while I was gone. But nevertheless, so they got Drew Lock.
Yep.
The kid made me a ton of money when he was playing for Missouri, his overs and his player props, man. He was great in college. I liked him. He went to Denver, was a disappointment.
Sure.
He had some cool viral moments, singing some rap songs and stuff. That was pretty neat. DK got his contract. And also, fun fact, he's in a movie called Secret Headquarters with Owen Wilson.
Okay.
That might be the highlight of the Seattle Seahawks season this year is watching DK on the big screen because their team total's set at 5.5. And you can take the over at minus 143. I don't think. The over kind of leads you to believe that it's going to be a little bit better. I don't think there's any smoke and mirrors here. I think the 5.5 is pretty close to accurate for the Seahawks. There's just rebuild season, right? Jimmy G might end up.
He might.
Which will lower their value a little bit.
Right, the 49ers would probably not be inclined to trade him within the division. If it's the best offer, it's the best offer. He might wind up getting released, in which case he signs with Seattle. But yeah, it's a year of transition for Seattle. Obviously, the big loss, Russell Wilson. But they did pick up Noah Fant and Shelby Harris in that trade. Their defense is not going to be Legion of Doom level good, but it's going to be good. It just depends on how the offense goes. And if a guy like DK Metcalf would get frustrated with the offense being stagnant. I don't see Tyler Lockett in that same category, but you never know. Lo and behold, they open up week 1 at home against the Denver Broncos, who bring a certain quarterback of stature with them into that game. And then they go to San Francisco and they get Atlanta. Then at Detroit, they could get off to a better start than most people think, but I don't see it happening. What do we got here? The 5.5. You want to take the over because it seems like a low number, but yeah, well, minus 143.
Yeah, that's a lot of teams to pay for an over on a team with a question mark on it.
Yeah, they do have a question mark. They, I think, would be a near consensus team to finish last in the division. As a 49er fan, I'm always fearful of Seattle. They can be good, they can be bad. They find ways to beat San Francisco. So don't be surprised if they beat them in a game this year.
So, all right, so it's 5.5. Let's try to find 5 bad teams that they play. All right, that'll sneak some in. So they'll play the Falcons week 3.
At home.
They'll play at Detroit. We're hoping Detroit's going to be better, right?
We're expecting it, yes.
They're playing at home against the Giants in week 8. They're playing across the pond against the Buccaneers. Maybe Tampa Bay oversleeps for that game. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Seattle's the kind of team that could give Tampa trouble because of their defense, but you would expect them to lose that game.
Yeah, they play week 17 against the Jets.
They do get the Cardinals twice. I wouldn't imagine they could win one of those games, if not both.
And then maybe week 18, they play the Rams. Maybe the Rams have it locked up and they rest.
Maybe.
They have this. Nevertheless, that's still maybe 4. You know what I mean? 5 at best.
Yeah. Paying
the 143 for the over doesn't make sense to me. You're getting under it plus 120. I'd
rather take the under. Can I see them winning 6 games this year? Absolutely. Do I want to pay that juice? No. If that juice came down, or if it went to 6.5, and it became more reasonable, and then you can maybe take the over on that. That's probably pushing it. Seattle's a tough team to peg.
maybe they get some help. So obviously the weather, Mother Nature, the element, evens the playing field, quote unquote, because it is a playing field.
Yeah,
maybe the 12th man, you know what I mean, helps them out. They get some weather games up there. They get the crowd up very loud if the crowd shows up. Maybe they can. I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself into it.
Right. It was the juice.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, does 5-12 for Seattle this season in a season of transition sound unrealistic? No, it really doesn't. So I'm sold. Give me the under.
Yeah, give me the plus money.
Yeah.
Wrapping up the NFC West, you got the Rams at plus 125. I don't know if you heard of this team or not, the 49ers.
They exist.
They're plus 160. Cardinals not getting any love. They're plus 375, and obviously the Seahawks plus 2,000 is probably not even on the radar. So I mean, you're essentially you're sorry.
No,
I mean, they didn't get.
I'd rather actually have Seattle at plus 2,000 than the Cardinals at plus 375. I'd rather have neither. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for either. But if you made me choose one, I just take my shot at the 2,000.
Yeah,
because I really don't like the Cardinals this year.
They didn't get Falcons LOL status, but that's plus 2,000. So I mean, are you flipping the coin between? And I'm asking this. This question's by design.
Mm-hmm.
Are you flipping the coin between the Rams and the Niners to win NFC West?
I mean, it seems like the Vegas wants us to flip the coin, and they're giving a little bit extra to the Niners as far as return goes.
Right. So if you're flipping the coin, you gotta just land it on heads and bet the Niners at plus 160.
That's my bet. That's 49er fan talking here, but I can't approach things with an objective mind. I don't expect them to win the Super Bowl this year. We've heard me discuss my little man crush on the Buffalo Bills here for the last few episodes, and that's just based on their talent. I would actually hope the 49ers don't make the Super Bowl this year as a fan, because if they play Buffalo, I would not expect.
Torn.
I would not. No, I wouldn't be torn. I'd still be a 49er fan. My fandom would always take over. My wallet and my heart are two different things.
I hear you.
And by the way, don't let those mix when you're betting, please. We'll talk about that in a second. If anything, bet against your heart. That way you can win something. Either you're happy or you make a little money. But all that said, 49ers plus 160, I do think they're the team in that division. I think they're going to win the division.
So wrapping up, you have all the division winners. You have our AFC conference winners. We're going to do some. Who do you think's going to win the NFC?
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl? Right?
Yeah, the NFC. We're gonna harken back to Josh's analogy with the Chick-fil-A sauces, and it's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
The NFC is wildly spread out this year, the way we see it. Now, the odds don't necessarily reflect that. Tampa at Barstool is the, I want to say, clear favorite. 333 to the next team being 450. To me, that's a clear favorite.
Yeah.
It's not an overwhelming favorite, but it's a clear one. Who do we pick to win the NFC this year?
I can give you my pick right now.
Go ahead, you give me yours.
And this is foreshadowing the Super Bowl pick. We're going to go Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, I like it. I do like it. I like it.
Plus 1,700 on that.
If they can win that division, which is the expectation that we have, not necessarily the public, if they win that division, they'll have to be better than Green Bay. And we expect Green Bay to be good. That means their record's going to be good. That means they're going to have a high seed. And if they can get somehow that number one seed, going into Minnesota, into the playoffs, is no fun task. That crowd is insane.
Right.
We know that. It's tough to win in there in the playoffs. And it would bring a lot of weight off the shoulders of Vikings fans that they have not played in the Super Bowl coming up on 46 years. It would be a great burden for them to lift it, but then they would need to win it because they and Buffalo are the only teams to go 0-4 in the Super Bowl, and that could be the matchup. Can you imagine Buffalo, Minnesota?
It's
That
not
would
going to be my matchup. I'll give you my matchup, but that could be
sure, but that's a reasonable matchup. You're getting plus 1,700 with Minnesota. It's not the favorite. I mean, what do they come in and count? They're the 8th favorite.
Yeah.
In Barstool.
That's where and I believe, don't quote me, I believe that's about where the Rams were last year.
Probably.
Around the number 8.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it. They were somewhere in
there.
there.
They weren't the top favorite, that's for sure. And, the top favorite is Tampa. And that's tricky to me. If you're going to be the top favorite the way Buffalo is in the AFC, it needs to be clear. And to me, it's not. And then Green Bay being right behind is not. As far as money goes, I like the Eagles, plus 1,300. I like the Vikings, plus 1,700. Kind of like the Saints at plus 1,800. I'm not picking these teams yet. I'm not picking any of them to be the conference champion. But as far as who provides you bang for your buck, those are the teams I like. I have Dallas 850. That doesn't do it for me. 49ers at plus 700. Even as a fan, I don't see the Super Bowl being their destination this season. I think they're building toward it. I think they're a playoff team, division winner, but not in the Super Bowl. And the Rams don't strike me as a repeat contender. You think of teams that have repeated. We're talking about all-time type great teams. Rams don't fit that criteria. I'm gonna have to make a pick here, aren't I? Eventually,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
my pick to win the NFC this year is the Philadelphia Eagles, plus 1,300. I think in my Eagles breakdown that we did in the previous episode, Jalen Hurts, don't screw it up. I mean, that's all you can ask for, and do what you do. You're a talented dude. You have the ability to do a lot of things that a lot of NFL quarterbacks can't do. First, do no harm on this team. Get the ball to your playmakers. Make some plays on offense. Pump up your guys. Get things going. Dark horse, Eagles in the Super Bowl this season.
All right, so you obviously have the Bills and the Eagles as your two.
That is my Super Bowl pick. It's a little off the wall.
Okay.
But that's maybe not the Buffalo part, but the Philadelphia part. That's my pick.
I'm going to roll. I've sprinkled a couple teams here and there. I've narrowed it down to 2. They're tied at plus 4,000 each to win the Super Bowl. $100 wins you $4,000 in either one of these teams. So essentially, you bet each team, you're getting $200 to win 4,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got the Las Vegas Raiders out of the AFC plus 4,000. Minnesota Vikings out of the NFC plus 4,000. I like that matchup. I like both those teams coming out of their respective conferences, and if either one of them lands, I mean, you're getting great odds to hedge. If they both land,
yeah,
it's gonna be an awesome Super Bowl party for you.
Speaking of the last time the Vikings made the Super Bowl, that was against the Raiders, and that would be a rematch almost a half century in the making. Vikings looking for revenge against a bunch of guys that probably aren't really alive anymore. But yeah, it'd be really easy to sit here and tell you guys, I think it's going to be Buffalo, Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. They're the two best teams.
The robot voice was good.
I don't know where it came from.
That was good. I like it.
Buffalo, to me, it's part of the reason, besides thinking they're the most talented roster in football, part of the reason for me backing them is how they've just come up short the last 2 years. And it's their time, I think. And I remember, you might not remember this, we had a conversation a long time ago, 2015, where I predicted the Kansas City Royals to win the World Series, almost solely on the fact that it felt like their time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't 100% like, you have to bet the Royals, but it just felt right, and it wound up being true. They did win the World Series that year. Just Buffalo, it feels like it's their time. They've never won the Super Bowl. They've very famously lost 4 years in a row. It just feels like their time, and it's chalk. I understand that, but I like them. And I like Philadelphia as their opponent. if Philadelphia to me doesn't make the Super Bowl, it's because they went 6-11. They're boom or bust as much as anyone else, and I've got that little tingling in my stomach telling me that it's Philadelphia in the NFC.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't disagree. I don't love the Eagles. I could see it. Philadelphia, they're due for sure. The whole city's due across the board in all of the major sports. Phillies fell apart. We'll talk about baseball in a second, but the Phillies fell apart with Bryce Harper getting hurt. 76ers with their James Harden drama and all that going on, Ben Simmons and all that. I mean, the city's due. You know what I mean? Like, the city's due.
The Eagles got them that Super Bowl a few years ago, but there's a whole lot wrong with Philadelphia in general. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So, Buffalo, obviously, like you said, chalk pick. I like him. I love Josh Allen, man. He's a dude's dude. You know what I mean? Like, he did the fake pass out, the fake get knocked out where he scrambled, got hit, laid face down during training camp the other day. That was hilarious, man. He's a funny guy. I like Derek Carr. I like the Raiders coming out. And like I said, with the Vikings, man, they're going to do it this year or they're not. And I think it's time for Kirk Cousins to take a step up from being a line, you know what I mean, and taking that step in the superstar. And they have the talent around and an offensive-minded coach to do it. So
you do. The NFC, I think we're kind of in agreement that fade Tampa, fade Green Bay. Not to say that they're bad, not to say they won't make the playoffs, not to say they don't have a good chance of breaking in, but your money's better elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're just hoping and praying. We have legitimate reasons why we think these results can happen.
Right.
And it's a little ironic for me as not a quarterbacks make teams guy, but Jalen Hurts can make that team first and foremost by not backing up.
Right.
Just play your game. You play your game. Don't let people get in your head. Play your game. You got A.J. Brown. You got a second-year Devontae Smith. You got a decent running game, decent offensive line, better than decent even, and go out there and get it done, man.
Yeah, and what hurt me the most was you were talking about Green Bay and Tampa when Aaron Rodgers stepped out looking like Nicolas Cage from Con Air the other day.
Cameron Poe.
Oh man, I was like, oh god, he's gonna win again. You know what I mean? Like, it just killed me.
I mean, that was like spot on.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was scary.
For a second, I'm like, which one's Cage? Which one's Rodgers?
All right, guys, that's wrapping up the NFC. That's wrapping up the team total props. That's wrapping up our Super Bowl predictions. We're gonna do some more player props.
Player props, yeah.
We'll do some of those. We're gonna cherry pick some college football totals that we like. We'll give you some reasons to agree with us, probably more reasons to disagree, but we'll have fun. We ended last week on a high note. We were 5 weeks strong posting winning baseball bets, and the All-Star break was very, very cruel to us.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurt so bad. We lost, I had the number second. I think it was 5 games in the 9th inning. We had the Reds money line going. They had the lead going to the 9th against a 7-8-9 hole against the Marlins. That blew up on us. We had the Twins with the lead going into the 9th against the Brewers. That blew up on us. There was just so many bad spots. And on top of bad bets, too. I mean, we came out firing with Carlos Rodon against the Dodgers out of the All-Star break to the under. Both of those teams got blown up. I mean, it was a bad bet nevertheless, but you mix in the bad bet with the bad beats, that equals break time, and that's where we're on right now. We've taken a 7-day hiatus responsibly. As far as responsible gambling goes, I think that was the right path. There's an old theory I think we both agreed on. Especially playing poker. When you're running good, you play as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
When you start to run bad, pots stop coming your way, you take some coolers, you take off. And that's the same thing I believe you got to translate over into sports betting. We had 5 weeks where we were just firing every day. I think we took 1 day off every other week where the board just didn't look great. Nevertheless, we're still looking at the board. We're still tracking everything, keeping up with the trade deadlines and whatnot. But we are on a week hiatus. It's a responsible thing to do, taking a break. Sorry to anybody we're letting down who's been telling and been winning. We will be back for sure. The other thing I wanted to mention, too, that we had not gotten to, all of our odds are coming via Barstool Sportsbook, right? And me and Pete agreed on using that specific app because we both had easy access to it and we could correlate on those odds. The smart thing to do, shop around, right? If you have Caesars, MGM, DraftKings, whatever sportsbook you have available to you in your state, definitely shop around. If you saw that, like I had the Vikings at plus $4,000 to win Super Bowl, and you see it on Caesars and they're plus 4,200. Obviously, the smart thing to do is to bet on Caesars, right? Definitely. That's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration. Back in the day, I guess when you're walking the strip in Vegas, it was easier to pop into different sports books and look at the odds and see the variance there. It's even easier now. Just download the apps, whatever you have access to, and make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck. Because at the end of the day, those decimals add up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just wanted to get that out there, make sure everybody knew we have not given up on the MLB season. We will have some more coming out. We'll probably do some Cy Young talks, some MVPs. I mean, it's undoubtedly Aaron Judge, but nevertheless, we'll still follow up with some division winners, MLB and whatnot. We wanted to knock out the NFL preseason while we still had time. It's hot on the plate. Baseball's not over. We'll have some college football. We'll have some player props for NFL still coming up. Anything else you got, Pete?
No, man, you nailed it. I just want to let everyone know, yes, the week off, step back, reassess. It's a good life lesson in any situation if you're able to do so. The one sports book I would not recommend is Vito on the Block. Vito's a tough dude, man. You don't want to make him.
Yeah, he dresses really cool, man, but you don't want to go alongside of him. Yeah,
stick to the legitimate folks, please.
Yeah, that just threw me. That completely threw me just now. Like all the legitimacy. Yeah, that was good. Vito on the Block.
Week off, 5-1. If your favorite NFL team starts the season 5-1, you're feeling pretty good. So we're not throwing in the towel entirely. Took the loss, owning it. Josh, I think, failed to mention my big pick of the week was Cardinals going into Toronto and taking care of business, and that didn't work out.
Well, they ended up winning the game in that series.
Yeah, the pitching fell apart. The game I liked. So
yeah. And Pujols with the leadoff, I believe it's Pujols game one against Toronto, had a home run in the first inning. That was pretty big. I was excited.
Yeah, and then it just St. Louis didn't have the pitching that day. It served me right for betting St. Louis anyway. I hate the Cardinals, but you still got to bet brain over heart.
Right, you're Professor Pete, man. We're together. We're partners on it. When our week is gone,
I take the lead on that game for sure.
But as far as Professor Pete picks, where we stepped to the side and like Pete was on this, you're 1-1, man. I mean, that's still not an awful.
No, I'm not devastated by that. But we'll be back. If you've been staying with us for the last 6 weeks, you're posting a winning record too. So,
I love it.
Yeah, we're going to be back with all that, and I'm actually looking forward to the player props. Player props are fun bets for me. It's kind of like fantasy football.
Yeah.
You're setting a fantasy football draft board based on what you think a player is going to do. I stay away from defensive player props. Interceptions are random. Sacks can be tricky. Things like that, I stay away from. When I stick with player props, I like offensive numbers. Not to say that I'm not a defensive guy. I absolutely am. But player props on defense are very tricky. Trevon Diggs might have 2 interceptions this year. He might have 11 again. You don't know.
Right.
But there's a better range of outcomes in offensive player props. So we stick with those.
Spoiler alert, Julio Jones.
Yeah, Julio Jones is going to be one of the props. And if you pay deep attention here, you'll have an insight into how I'm going to be going with that. So,
guys, we appreciate everybody. We appreciate everybody listening. It's hashtag DriveAcross65. Pineapples do not go on pizza. Pineapples don't go on pizza on Twitter. It's a fact. At the Joshua Sharp, it's also a fact. Like, comment, subscribe. Enjoy, everybody. We appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you.